This mini lecture starts at the slide, what is a power of attorney? Quite simply, a power of attorney for finance is a document that lets you stand in somebody else's shoes. So if we're thinking back to our work in Vanguard or our other work in the Counterpoint Project, if a person gives authority to somebody else to make decisions for them, that can be given through a document called power of attorney. A power of attorney can only be made by an adult, and it can only be made by an adult who is capable of understanding and appreciating the consequences. It must be freely made, free from undue influence. But it essentially allows somebody else to sign your name. The next slide talks about terminology, and it's important to have the right terms when you're speaking about the subject. We talk about a donor, somebody who is a person who gives the authority. We talk about the attorney, and then we don't mean a lawyer in this, we mean a person who receives the authority. And the power of attorney is the physical document. Power of attorneys are a written document, so there's not a power of attorney that you give by words. It must be signed by the capable older adult, and it can pick one or more people to make decisions on your behalf. And we're talking about financial decisions at this point. It is about business, banking, property, money, and a financial power of attorney does not deal with healthcare substitute decision making. However, in some jurisdictions you can bring these issues together. They have different names for healthcare, as I say, but the financial power of attorney is almost always the same. Moving to the slide saying it's an advanced planning instrument, it's important to know that it is a planning document, which means if a person is incapable, it is already too late to get a power of attorney. Now that may sound obvious to you, but I can't tell you the number of times that has had a misapprehension. It is not a will, which means it begins when it is active, and we'll talk about that in a minute, and it ends at the point of the person's death. A power of attorney does not continue on past death. Let's talk about what about mental capacity with regards to powers of attorney. We know in our slide entitled Capacity and Aging that anyone can lose capacity at any time due to all kinds of different things, including illness or accident. It's true older adults may be at a greater risk for losing capacity due to age-related illnesses, but we know that most older adults remain capable throughout their lives. But we also know that ageism, which we've talked about in previous lectures, plays a big role in this. People are often assumed to be incapable because they are older. Moving to the slide entitled Planning for Future Decisions, you see if the capable person is able to do it, then it is you decide. Even if you have a power of attorney, you are still in control. If you are incapable, then someone else will decide. You see the line in the middle, what we often call the gray zone. That can be the difficult line, and you'll remember from your Vanguard materials that we talked about working in the gray zone. Moving to the next slide, which should look familiar to you as well, there's the capacity continuum. We know that capacity is decisional, which means we don't talk about a person really being completely incapable or completely capable. We ask, capable for what? There are 4 types of powers of attorney generally. I'm going to go through each one of them. Regular powers of attorney, which are not often used anymore. Enduring power of attorneys and springing powers of attorney, which are common. And a limited power of attorney, which is often more common than you think. Moving to the first slide. A regular power of attorney really is more of a historical document. Before we had credit cards, debit cards, online banking, etc., you may have needed to go down to the grocery store with your checkbook to buy groceries for mom. My mom did this for my grandmother because my grandmother had physical frailty. And this was before online service deliveries, etc., so you needed someone physically to go there. And a regular power of attorney is active right away and ends at the point of a person's incapability. They're not a planning document. I call them a running around document. There are quite rare. Number 2 is an enduring power of attorney. This is much more common. That's where it's capable. The capable adult gives it and it's active right away. So there's sort of two people. There's the capable adult that can spend money and also the power of attorney that can spend money on the capable person's behalf. When the person becomes incapable, the line down the middle of the slide, then the authority of the power of attorney continues. So why would you want that? Well, you might want to see, first of all, how it works. You might want somebody who can always step in and out of your shoes. Maybe you're traveling a lot. Maybe you have more than one property. Maybe you just want the assurance that you can see that the person that you're appointing is doing a good job. So an enduring power of attorney. The risk is the power of attorney may be doing things while you're capable that you're not actively monitoring, and so you can get into trouble. On the other hand, if you find out that the power of attorney is acting poorly, you can end the power of attorney as long as you remain capable. A springing power of attorney is a document which sleeps when it's created and then springs into effect when something happens. In this case, it's often incapability. It could be something else, but it's usually incapability. This is a very commonly used document. People like it because nobody can mess around with their money while they're still capable, but they have protection from a planning point of view for when they become incapable. A limited power of attorney is a kind of document that may exist only in time for a particular time period, 2 weeks maybe, when you're on vacation, or for a particular purpose. An insurance renewal, it could be that you are going to have some work done on the house and someone needs to sign checks for your account, so you can write a limited power of attorney. Sometimes you actually are writing limited powers of attorney when you don't realize it. You might turn over a form and sign here if you want to designate somebody else to do something for you. That is a limited power of attorney. We're going to now move to the slide that says, if you are incapable, who makes your decisions? It's important to know that if you have nobody appointed in that far right space, nobody who would take over if you were incapable, it will go to your public guardian and trustee. In Alberta, it's a public guardian. In most jurisdictions, they are fused together. And in Quebec, it's a public curator and such that works in this area. But the degree is there is an independent organization, which is still part of government, which works to try to make decisions for you. But it is not going to be your next of kin in finance in the way that it often kind of goes into in healthcare. If you have an enduring or springing power of attorney, then that power of attorney is the person. There's a little review slide here looking at the different sections. We'll continue our mini lecture on how can powers of attorney be used and misused.